What's up guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video I thought I'd take the time to make a list of pros and cons as to why you may or may not want to play each spec in the upcoming Battle for Azeroth expansion in regards to Rogue. Now as you all know, Rogue is my favorite class, and I just thought I would help use my experiences over the time to help you guys decide which spec to play. I love all specs. Subtlety is my favorite. That's a video for another time, though. I don't want to give you a short answer like I like the control. I can go into in-depth on that if you guys wish, and I can tell you the whole story about why I like subtlety better than the other specs. Anyway, let's hop straight into this. For pros, starting off with my main spec here, subtlety. Basically, sub's got some great burst damage. It's got superior control to the other specs, like superior on-demand control through Shadow Dance. Better mobility with 2 Shadow Steps instead of 1 as Assassin or just 1 grappling hook as Outlaw. You have also Shadow Strike when you're in stealth, which gives you a 25-yard range Shadow Step. Also, you have access to a 15% mortal wounds effect through your Nightblade, which is really nice. And you got some fun talents too, like Shadowy Duel. I like playing that. Shadowy Duel is pretty cool. Um, Moving on to the cons, though, it's harder to learn than the other specializations. Not by much, and it's definitely easier than it has been in past expansions, but definitely some of those control chains can be a lot harder to learn, especially for new players who are lacking some of the knowledge it takes to get some of those crowd control chains out. And while I do recommend still playing it if you want to play sub, it is definitely a harder learning curve than the other two specs. Given Outlaw's got some things that make it rough too, but we'll get to that. Also, in addition to that, without some certain macros and proper keybinds, you may find, this kind of goes for all rogue specs, but especially for sub with Shadow Dance, as your bars will be paging over to your stealth bar. Um, some situations are hard to pull off successfully if you don't have your keybinds and macros set up the proper way. So I may make a macro guide in the future. Again, I had one in the past. It's still pretty well current. You guys check my channel, you can probably find it on there. Anyway, moving on. It's got relatively low sustain damage compared to the other specs, and um, I do not really think that this is a problem because the way subtlety usually operates in comps is you're going for a burst attempt and then you're just trying to pull back and just reset, get another CC chain out, move in, go for a kill, get some more cooldowns, like until you eventually win the game. Whereas Assassination, you're just like more out there, just kind of tunneling people down. Much different playstyle for sure, so it's something to consider when you guys are picking your spec. Other than that, yeah, I guess let's drop straight into Assassination. So for Assassination, the pros are that it has strong front load burst damage. What I mean by that is Vendetta gives you crazy burst damage. Even though it is very broken right now in live, it does get nerfed a little bit in the BFA launch patch, as well as currently on beta it's nerfed. It's still very, very strong, and it's going to maintain being strong. It's just how the class functions. If it gets too weak, Blizzard's going to buff it again. It's not going to get ridiculous. They'll find a nice middle ground for it. It is going to work. And basically, it does amazing damage to plate targets, way better than the other two rogue specs. Way, 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 way better than Outlaw. And it is a dot-based damage, which allows for some spread pressure in some comps. Also, it is the only rogue spec with access to a silence. When talented, it's a 6-second silence, well, 4 seconds in PvP, but very strong for sure for that 1 extra second. Not always the best talent to take, but that's another story for another time. And it also has access to Wound Poison and Deadly Brew Honor talent, which is, with Master Poisoner, an 18% healing reduction, which is a very, very good pro to have. It is definitely the strongest Mortal Strike effect you can get of the 3 rogue specs, and one of the main reasons why people bring Assassination into Arena and PvP in general. The cons, on the other hand, of Assassination is that it has holy English, low mobility, and it has lower on-demand control. So outside of your cooldowns like Blind, you really only have Kidney Shot for control. Outside of Vanish, you can't really get Garrote silences off unless you get re-stealths, which aren't as easy to come by as Assassination, as you don't have as much mobility to get to the pillar and re-stealth. As far as comps go for Assassination, it can function in all the same comps as Subtlety for the most part. However, it has a great emphasis on pressure as opposed to trying to keep everybody crowd controlled. It's more focused on just running one guy down and doing a lot more single target pressure. However, the exception to this is that you can play a couple things like RLS or maybe with a Death Knight where you try to focus on more spread pressure and trying to kill people that way. Definitely, it has more comp diversity and can function in some melee cleaves, which is not usually true for the other two specs. But other than that, we're going to hop straight into Outlaw, get on with the pros here for Outlaw. Alright, a pro for Outlaw, I would say, is that you can get lucky with this spec, alright? You got this ability called Roll the Bones. And what Roll the Bones does is it gives you one of 6 combat buffs. And the thing is, you have the chance to get more than just one buff. You can get 2 buffs, which has got, you know, a 20% chance, not bad. Or you can get 5 buffs, which has got a 1% chance. But Outlaw is about that 1% dream. You get those 5 buffs, you will erase your target. Some other pros of Outlaw in addition to this is that you have a 20-yard range in your stun instead of kidney shot. Now it is only 5-second duration instead of 6. However, I mean, if you're in a route, you can get that crowd control chain. That's still sick. You can get that between the eyes off, and that's really going to help you. Also, between the eyes has some damage attached to it, and under certain buffs, between the eyes actually does some pretty good damage. In addition to that, Outlaw also has access to Gouge, which is a 4-second crowd control ability on the same diminishing returns as Sap. Now, it does have a 15-second cooldown, but it does not require the target to be in, or sorry, rather out of combat. And that is something that is very powerful for the Outlaw spec. It allows you to get nice setups going. Also, you can talent to have a lower cooldown on blind, which can really shake up some matchups, as having a 1.5 minute cooldown is greatly going to be something a lot of players are not used to at the beginning of Legion, as most people, their instinct is to like, oh, I got hit by blind, 2-minute cooldown. Okay, well, I'll trade my trinket for that, and they get out, right? The Outlaw blind will come up before that window, and now Outlaw will have an advantage, and you'll have that guaranteed chain. You know, you may not kill on that first blind, but that second blind is going to be very powerful. Also, in addition to that, that same talented blind will have a 30-yard range, which is nice. Also, Outlaw has access to some cool honor talents. I mean, we got Dismantle for that melee cleave counter ability. You know, you can take away their weapon. They don't do as much damage for 6 seconds. In addition to that, we had some cool talents for team play, such as Tricks of the Trade, which is nice. You know, you buff you and your teammate by, I believe, 10%. I think it got nerfed a little bit. It is currently 15% on live. On beta, it's down to 10%. It's probably going to stay there for a little bit. It's very good with things like RMP, where, you know, you and your mage can get that sick burst. You can stack it with Prey on the Weak, which is also getting nerfed in PvP to 5%, but it is still some very nice burst you can pull off. Also, I mean, in addition to all this stuff, Roll the Bones does add a variety to the playstyle. It kind of keeps it fun. You don't know what you're going to get ever, but at the same time, you do need to be able to react to what you do get, which is more of a con. We'll get to that. Mobility is not really target bound, so I mean, you can travel anywhere. That's definitely a pro as well. It's versatile and quite useful for traversing the map, especially for war mode and world PvP in general, just for like escaping those fights. Also, I mean, you got a range slow through pistol shot, which is something that sub doesn't have, but I mean, Assassination does through poison knife as well. Cons, RNG. Sometimes your Roll the Bones will make you sad. Learning all the buffs and buff combinations can be taxing on new players. It's greatly going to affect how you rotate through your abilities, and that's something that can be frustrating sometimes, as you may not be doing it fully optimally, and you may lose situations at earlier stages of learning this that you could have actually won. It's just due to lack of experience. It's going to take you a little bit to learn these buffs if you're not used to playing Outlaw. And also another con to Outlaw is that it has quite weak damage versus plate when compared to the other two specs, especially Assassination. Other than that, the only other con I can really think of is that Outlaw doesn't have access to mortal wounds, and so you don't have that healing reduction. But that being said, it does perform really well in arena still, and it does have a good solid setup and plays well in setup comps such as RMP and stuff like that. Anyway, that's gonna do for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope it helps you decide on the spec you want to play. I'm gonna be playing sub first, that's for sure. I love sub, and it's a blast. But for now, Like I said, give the video a like if you thought it was good. Subscribe for more, and we'll see you guys all next time.